Good evening. My name is Willie Lawson, and this is The Willie Lawson Show, here on iHeartRadio. Geared to change your mind so you can change your world. Well, all right. Well, welcome to the Willie Lawson Show here tonight on iHeartRadio. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate you listening on iHeartRadio. We're watching the numbers, and you're actually listening. We appreciate that. Tonight, we're going to talk about a concept that I didn't come up with it. There's no way, because it sounds complicated. It sounds all erudite. It sounds like something that someone who writes books or teaches at a university comes up with. The title of the show is Racial Equilibrium. And I want to talk to you about what that concept is, because I think that a lot of people don't understand it. Those of you who listen know that I always get sparked for my shows by something I see, whether I see something in my own personal life, or I see it in my business life, or my political life, or I see it here on the internet. Can you imagine? There's a lot of stuff you see on the internet that makes you want to comment. But you know what? Sometimes you can't comment right then. And I am blessed that I have my own avenue by which to comment. And especially when we start talking about issues of race, because when I talk to you about issues of race, I think this is obviously timely, as we all saw the cell phone video of the police officer in North Carolina shooting the unarmed black man. And so we're all sensitive to this. We're all sensitive to this now because it's what the media is putting in front of us. And whatever they put in front of you, let there be no doubt, that's what you'll be sensitive to. Whatever you see all the time, whatever media, because inherently you trust the media. Inherently you trust the media more than you trust me, because you think that I have an agenda. Because I am honest with my agenda. I am, you know what? I am the exact thing that Maya Angelou told you. Maya Angelou said that if somebody tells you who they are, believe them. And that's what I do. I've already told you who I am and what I'm about. So you've decided either you're going to trust me or not trust me. But the media, the newspapers and the TV and radio people, you're still under the impression, because they're supposed to be unbiased. They're supposed to be fair and balanced, all of them. So you take them at their word, because they have the professional title journalists. And you take them at their word because they have this title, journalists. They've professionalized a model that was never really supposed to be professionalized. That it was always supposed to be the citizens that policed their politicians and folks. It was never supposed to be. Journalism was never supposed to be what it is now. Some ivory tower club that only the erudite and the highly educated in those ivory towers could participate in. It was never supposed to be that. We talked about it in past shows about some of the first people who were what we call now journalists, practice pamphlet patriotism. And that means if they had an issue with somebody, they would have they would create a pamphlet or a poster, and they would nail the posters up. They would pass the pamphlets out, and that's how people got information about candidates and about issues going on in their community. You didn't have to go to. You didn't have to say, well, you can't, like now. Well, you can't be a journalist because you didn't go to blah blah blah. You don't have a degree, blah blah blah. That's not what journalism ever was. Journalism was never that, and wasn't intended to be that in this country. And before some of you get started, I know that some of you will get started, that this is certainly this anti-intellectual rant, and it really isn't. What it is hopefully encouraging you where you are, to decide that you too can report on what you see. And that's all that we're talking about. Report on what you see. See and say. That's all this really is. And that's all journalism is supposed to be. If you see it, then you say it. Tell somebody. And it's a good thing that the gentleman that took the cell phone video in North Carolina decided to share that video. First of all, that he had the presence of mind to take out a cell phone, and as he sees this confrontation going on between his police officer and this other gentleman, that he had the presence of mind to take his cell phone out, and that he had the presence of mind not to do what a lot of us would have done once shots were fired, either run for the hills or freak out entirely, and we didn't get to see what we got to see. So that's what citizen journalism is all about. That's what it's about. And this guy didn't have to have a degree from Columbia in journalism to capture something and share something that was obviously very, very important. He was able to tell this story, and that's all journalism is supposed to be. He was able to tell this story. And it seems like, at least at this point, that he was able to tell this story without bias. Now, his words, after hearing him speak, don't tell that very same story, but the video that he took seems to, at least at this point, tell the story without bias, and that's what we hope that journalism is. So you're more likely to trust, especially how sensitive things are. You're more likely to trust, unfortunately, quote, professionals, because we live in in society that trusts professionals implicitly, and especially if they're professionals who have degrees, because we trust the learning institutions. We put a lot of stock into education, and we put a lot of stock into our education system, because first of all, we're told to. We're continuing. The education system continues to self-import. They are the most important. When you send your kid to school anymore now, you send your kid to elementary school. The counselors and the teachers at the preschool start talking to you about this will help his chances or her chances in getting into a good college, and you don't for a second go, he's 5, good college. We just got him out. We just got him out of training pants. We're talking about college. That's ridiculous. But we buy in because now all children are geniuses. Those of you who have children, those of you who have grandchildren, especially, they're all geniuses. They're all at the highest level possible, because somehow they have figured out how to operate your iPhone and you can't. So that makes them a genius. Well, I'll tell you what. I must have been a genius too, because I figured out the TV in 1966 in my house before everybody else did. You know what? I could operate a remote and program the VCR before everybody else did too. So I guess that made me Mensa? No, probably not. And so that doesn't. We've changed what we're calling genius, obviously. And all our kids and grandkids are geniuses because they can operate a tablet. They can pull up an app on a tablet that you don't understand. So we trust all these people and all these things that tell us what smart is and tell us what's true. So we trust all this stuff. That's why you're more likely to. This is why you're more likely to believe a journalist. That you're more likely to believe the people at MSNBC or CNN or Fox News or NBC or ABC or CBS than me. I understand that. I don't like it, but I understand it. I get it. But tonight we're going to talk about racial equilibrium, and what I'm going to say to you is going to challenge you. It's going to challenge you. It's going to challenge everything you know. It's going to challenge everything you believe. But when we're done, you're going to figure out, you're going to know that I'm right. Listen, we'll take a little break. We'll be back with more of the Will Austin Show right after these messages. You have discriminating taste and an eye for the impressive. You need to surround yourself with not only beauty, but quality. That is why you are looking for a new construction home for you and your family. Let the experts at New Homes of Tampa Bay guide you to and through your new home purchase process. With access to hundreds of model homes throughout the Tampa Bay area, New Homes of Tampa Bay is sure to find that perfect match of budget and beauty you are looking for. New Homes of Tampa Bay can save you thousands of dollars while costing you nothing. Call us today before you start your new home search. New Homes of Tampa Bay at 813-770-9452 and at www.newhomestpa.com.
Man, do I love card night. You ready, boys? You got a king?
Go, fish dad!
Oh, come on! This is WWE superstar Titus O'Neil. The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes two. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese!
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzzed driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzzed driving, because buzzed driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Alrighty, welcome back. Welcome back to the Will Austin Show here on iHeartRadio. We appreciate you being here. Tonight, racial equilibrium. I'm going to challenge a bunch of stuff that you are sure of, especially if you live in the Northeast or on the West Coast of this nation, or if you live in Europe. Now, I say that because we broadcast to iHeartRadio through Spreaker.com, which is based in London, I believe, was based in England for sure. And a lot of Europeans have this this filtered view of race in America. And, of course, it's wrong. It's wrong. It's incorrect. It's skewed through all the same media sources I just talked about in the open. I was watching this video done by this girl, Jocelyn, black girl. She looks Indian, really, but she's a black girl, Jocelyn 53 on YouTube. And the title of the video is "Why White Girls Are Better Than Black Girls." And she is... You know what? She doesn't think, don't go to YouTube and look for Jocelyn and try to dog her out. She doesn't think that at all. What she doesn't understand is why people are even saying that and having the discussion. Now, her point was that the people who live in the Northeast and on the West Coast are colorblind and they don't see race. She only sees the people who are the people who live out there in the middle of nowhere, Midwest, flyover states, and the South, are all the racists. And the only thing I commented on was, I said to her that one big lie is that racists only live in the South. As a matter of fact, I was having this conversation on Facebook, I don't know, a month ago or so, and it came to me that the reality of race in America is that racial equilibrium. Now, let me define to you what I believe racial equilibrium is. Racial equilibrium is when the level of racial tension is at its minimum. when the level of racial tension is at its minimum. Now, I think that because of the divisive nature of media and politics, especially now, there will be racial tension. Now, that's our condition, and I think that we've created this condition, and we allow this condition to continue. So, racial equilibrium is, by my definition, the point where racial tension is at its minimum. And I don't see that, and I personally don't see that done any better than in the South. And I think that even through the horrendous days of Jim Crow, there was equilibrium. There was equilibrium. Even during that time, and because there was equilibrium, there was people, black people were able to progress even through the most horrific discrimination and racism that outside of slavery, free black Americans had ever seen. And for the most part, change happened without violence. Yes, there were incidents of violence like Bloody Sunday. There were incidents of violence, but not incidents of violence like there were in the supposed enlightened Northeast or the supposed enlightened West Coast. The change that seemingly had to go the farthest from freed blacks to black millionaires and to black senators and black congressmen happened in the South. It happened in the place that had to go the farthest for the longest. I'm gonna, and I should have done this earlier. I apologize, but I'm going to because my listeners who listen all the time can tell that I'm typing, right? Because I can never type and talk at the same time. I've been doing this show since March of 2008, and that I have not gotten. I've never been able to do that. All right. Here's the deal. That even in that period of Reconstruction, and this is, of course, from the Oracle of All Correct Information, Wikipedia, the first African Americans to serve in the United States Congress were Republicans elected during the Reconstruction era. After slaves were emancipated and granted citizenship right, freedmen gained political representation in the southern United States for the first time. In the southern United States. That's the part of the country that had to go the farthest. Even in Reconstruction, right after the Civil War, in a war-torn area, that didn't really recover until World War II in the South, and in some places you can go to and there's still scars. Is when you had people like Senator Hiram Revels elected to Congress. And Hiram Revels was from he was a United States Senator who served from 1870 to 1871 to serve a term in Congress. Was from Mississippi, but served as as one of the senators from North Carolina as a Republican. That created the equilibrium. That kind of stuff created the equilibrium. Was there tension? Of course, was there tension. As time went on, we saw, but what did we see? We saw less violence. Yes, were there Klan rallies and cross burnings, and did people get lynched? Yes. Individual outbreaks of horrific, terrible violence on black people. So, and in the 50s and 60s, yes. Horrific, terrible. You know what? And again, to sit here and tell you that, well, nothing happened, that everything was hunky dory, that would put me into a position of somebody who is stoned, who is strung out, because that didn't happen. But I'm telling you that as a matter of course, because of and maybe because of the culture, a relatively polite culture in the South, that racial equilibrium, even under Jim Crow, racial equilibrium came to the South first. And this is going to, and what I'm going to say next is going to blow you away. Let's see. Yeah. What I'm going to say next is going to blow you away. And some of you are going to be angry, but you know what? You've been angry at me before. And you'll be angry at me again. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and share on Facebook, right now. So you can go to my Facebook page and hear and read what I'm going to say next. Let's see here. All right. That ought, and if anybody's listening, that ought to get you going. Go to my Facebook page and you'll see that. And that's what we're going to talk about when we get back. Thank you for coming to the Will Austin Show here on iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after these messages. Well, good morning. Are you interested in upping your conservative IQ? To be more solid in your conservative thought? To be able to debate at a higher level? To be able to understand at a higher level what conservatism in America is really all about? Well, I can help you now. Alongside us as partners is a new partner, the RedRiverChronicle.com website. The RedRiverChronicle.com website, whose founder is Kevin Batts, understands what conservatism is all about and understands it in the way they write their articles, their commentary, all the educational material that is on the website, put together in a great way, very easy to navigate. So if you want to up your IQ, go to RedRiverChronicle.com.
Behold, we are in the presence of champions, fantasy sports legends who have earned hundreds of thousands of dollars playing online. Meet Arlie Gonzalez. Average guy, superior sports knowledge. Picked a team in minutes and won enough to throw the party of a lifetime. In outer space. Former accountant Derek Bradley. DraftKings One Day Fantasy Baseball took him from a guy with holes in his underpants to a guy with bikini models in them.
How do we turn our love of fantasy sports into reality cash?
DraftKings.com. They have one-day games, so you're not locked in. It's like a new season every time you play. And best of all, you could win a shipload of money. Play for the largest one-day cash pools in all of fantasy sports. Go to DraftKings.com and enter the Baseball Chase for the Crown event, paying out over $5 million. Enter promo code BONUS and we'll double your deposit. Get to DraftKings.com now.
Go, Caleb! Come on, hit a homer, Jesse!
Let's go, guys!
Hey, did you guys know that kids who play sports earn more money when they grow up?
Of course. I knew that.
Hey, did you guys know that kids who read books have a bigger vocabulary?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Wow, Jinx. Did you guys know that friendly children have more friends?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
That's true. I knew that. Did you guys know that winter babies are better at music?
Everyone knows that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
obvious.
Oh, hey, guys. Did you know that most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
Huh, I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure I knew that.
I'm pretty sure you didn't.
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right car seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat to make sure your child is protected. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a bear sighting.
Location.
In the woods, just outside of town.
Oh, not surprising. You've got your home. Bears have theirs.
Yeah, but see, this wasn't just any bear. This bear was wearing jeans and a hat, as in Smokey Bear.
Jeans and a hat. That's definitely Smokey. What exactly did he have to say?
Well, we were about to head home, after having a bonfire.
Oh, I can guess where this is going.
Right. See, Smokey told me the fire wasn't actually out. He said if it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave.
That's true. Did you know that 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans? That means 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented.
Wow, no kidding?
I'm a forest ranger. We never kid.
Sorry.
that was a joke.
Oh.
If you see someone in danger of starting a wildfire, step in and make a difference, because 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans. Brought to you by Smokey Bear, the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Learn more at smokeybear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
All right. Thank you ever so much for coming to the Willie Lawson Show here on iHeartRadio. Today we're talking about racial equilibrium, and I hope that you put some duct tape around your socks, because what I'm going to tell you next, what we're going to talk about next, is going to blow your socks off. Like I said at the beginning of the show, you're simply going to be challenged at every single step tonight. We've talked about how far the South had to come, and even through Jim Crow and the horrible 40s, 50s, and 60s in the South, and incidents that happened in the South concerning groups like the Ku Klux Klan and the Knights of the White Camellia. Yeah, see, most of y'all even heard of them, right? You thought it's just been the Klan all the time. No, there were a number of hate groups. What we call hate groups, organized by the Democrat Party in the South. And, we saw horrific things with the lynchings and the like. But all in all, there was equilibrium, and I described equilibrium as being the least amount of racial tension possible under the circumstances. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you exactly why. And this is going to offend a bunch of you and shock the rest of you. It's because everybody knew their place. Everybody knew their role. And everybody played it. Now, were the role of black people subservient to whites in the South? Yes. But what it allowed was an equilibrium. What it allowed was the ability and the chance to earn, to build, to do, to become successful. Even through the rest of it, because people knew their role. There wasn't, and white folks knew their role. I mean, and I know that you think that black folks were stuck with step and fetch it, but white folks knew their role too. White folks knew that there was, no matter how much they thought that there was creativity, that there was profit, that there was benefit to stepping out of their roles, especially as concerned race, they dare not, because it upset an equilibrium. And when equilibrium is upset, then there can be no progress. So white folks knew their role too. They knew that there were certain places they couldn't go. There were certain things they couldn't do. There were certain things they couldn't say. So they had their hands tied. A lot of white folks had their hands tied in some of the very same ways that black people had their hands tied. Certain places you can't go, certain things you can't do, certain things you can't say. Right? It created equilibrium. Now, as things progress, because of this equilibrium, things were able to progress. Things were able to get better. Things were able to change for the better. For both, you know what, the civil rights movement wasn't just to help black people in the South. The civil rights movement was able to help everybody, because the things that I just talked about, where you can go, what you can do, what you can say, increased for everybody, not just black people. Not just black people. You know what we often see, because we see black college kids and the black youth sitting at lunch counters in the South, and we see these movies where they're sitting at these lunch counters, not being served, being spit on and hit on and shoved around by the typical movie white racist. And not that these things didn't happen, because they did. And then they would shift out. You know what? And then here comes the next shift, and you were to be nonviolent. You were just to take it. You weren't there to fight. You were there to have a sandwich. Now, I don't know if I'd eat a sandwich made by somebody who I know didn't want me there. I don't know why I'd have that sandwich. But we don't see the other side of that. At the same time, one of those awful, terrible rednecks wasn't walking down to the Bottoms, to Cleo's Rib Shack down at the Bottoms, plopping their butt down at a table saying, "Serve me, gal." That wasn't happening either. Because, because Buford didn't have any damn reason in the world to be down in the Bottoms at a restaurant or a Rib Shack or a juke joint. That didn't happen either. I think that story, because maybe that story isn't as compelling or emotional, so it doesn't get told. That didn't happen either. The equilibrium was that there were certain things that black people couldn't do, say, go, and there were things that white people couldn't say or do, and places they couldn't go either. It created an equilibrium. Now, some of you are thinking, are you talking about separate but equal? No, because it was never equal. It was always just separate. It was always separate. Brown versus the Board of Education guaranteed separate but equal, but it was never equal, and that was the problem. It was never equal. And then the change came. The change came with, I know what we'll do. We'll send black kids to white schools, and that'll make it all equal. Well, no, it didn't. What it did was close down black schools and shove down the importance of education in black communities to nil, as Johnson's War on the Poor was destroying their families. It was making it difficult, if not impossible, for black parents to participate in their kids' education and involvement at schools. It was destroying a lot of educational history that existed in the black community by farming out black kids to white schools. I mean, especially in the suburbs, taking them out of the city, out of where they came from, and shoving them into strange and negative environments. Seems silly to me. That's not how you do separate but equal. And what we've seen. Again, I'm the guy who always goes, well, what happened? What actually happened? Well, you went from a culture that had opened up numerous land grant colleges all over the country. Went from slavery, the end of slavery in 1860s, to land grant colleges all over the country in the next 50 years. Places like Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, places like Bethune-Cookman College, Howard University, Southern. That's what happened right after. That's what happened right after Reconstruction. And you can look that up. Historically black colleges and universities that they started happening. They started happening shortly after Reconstruction. So when that, and what you saw then was especially during this period where it was genius to divide up black kids and send them to the suburbs. We haven't seen any of these yet. All done. We're talking about schools like Bluefield State College, West Virginia State University, Kentucky State, Delaware State, Lincoln University in Pennsylvania, University of District of Columbia, Elizabeth State University, Fayetteville, Winston-Salem State University, Xavier University of Louisiana, North Carolina A&T. That's what we don't have anymore. That's what we don't have anymore. Which is really a shame. Which is really an awful shame. Because I'm gonna go through the list. I'm gonna prove to you that I'm right. Because I'm gonna give the date that these schools were founded and where they are. Alabama A&M University in Huntsville, Alabama, founded 10 years after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation and the end of the Civil War. 1875, Alabama State University in Montgomery, Alabama, founded in 1867, public school, and it was founded as Lincoln Normal School of Marion. Alabama State University was founded as Alabama Bible and Manual Training Institute in 1903. Alcorn State in Lorman, Mississippi in 1871, founded as Alcorn University in honor of James L. Alcorn. Let's go down the alphabet a little bit. The University of Maryland, Eastern Shore in Princess Anne, Maryland, founded in 1886, founded as Delaware Conference Academy. Miles College in Alabama, a private school, founded in 1905 by the CME Church. Let's go, let's go a little further. Prairie View A&M. I think that's where Jerry Rice went to school. In Prairie View, Texas, founded in 1876. Let's go a little further. Stillman in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, 1876. Presbyterian school, founded at Tuscaloosa Institute. The college was the concept of Reverend Charles Allen Stillman, who was a pastor of the First Presbyterian Church of Tuscaloosa. 1876. So we're talking about a bunch of schools that are historically black colleges and universities all founded between the end of the Civil War, the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, and the beginning of the 1900s. It was a renaissance during the worst time possible, and most of these schools that I'm looking at were founded in the South. Let's go on the list. Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, South Carolina, Tennessee, Arkansas, North Carolina, South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida, Alabama, West Virginia, Maryland, Ohio, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, Maryland, Delaware, South Carolina, Louisiana, D.C., Florida, North Carolina, Tennessee, Florida. And Florida, those two Floridas are two schools. Florida A&M, founded in 1887, and Florida Memorial University in Miami Gardens, Florida, founded 2 years later in 1879. Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, Virginia, Missouri, Mississippi, D.C., Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Texas. We're talking about schools in the South. Historically black college and university founded in the South. which leads you. You've got to understand. You've got to think for a second. Wait a minute. What was happening? Yes, you've been taught by the media that we told you about those journalists that we told you about at the beginning of the show, was that these are the people who knew this is what was going on in the South at the time. Yes, horrible, terrible violence, issues of, yes, lynchings and the like. Was that going on at the time? Yes, but even in the most horrible things, because everybody knew their role, or everybody knew their place, progress was allowed to happen. And these are some of the most prestigious universities that exist today. Not just for black people, but for everybody, but for all Americans. We'll be back with more of the Willie Lawson Show right after these messages.
It's 6:42 p.m. Time for Steve Plotto and his son Dylan to do the dishes. They talk about everything from the yuckiness of girls to the awesomeness of his soccer team. Sometimes they don't talk at all. Then, hey! The dreaded splash fight. It's Dad O'Clock, and it's the best time of the day. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Come on and clean up the mold. Clean up the mold. Mold can trigger asthma in kids young and old. Come on and clean up the mold. Clean up the mold in your house.
This song may be fun, but childhood asthma is not. Preventing asthma attacks can be as simple as cleaning up the mold and mildew in your house. For more Breathe Easy tips to help stop asthma attacks, go to noattacks.org. Brought to you by the EPA and the Ad Council.
If you want to be an adoptive parent, it doesn't matter if you're a little different.
I'm a box troll. Oh, really?
What you look like.
Your ears aren't pointy. I slept on them funny.
Or what you sound like. You just need to be there. You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care don't need perfection. They just need you. Call 888-200-4005 or visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
All right, welcome back to the Willie Lawson Show here on iHeartRadio. We hope that you're enjoying yourself and you had a good time, and we're giving you something to think about. If nothing else, we're giving you something to think about, because without that, then there's no way that we can approach this, these problems, new situations, if we're always just operating out of the horribleness of what happened and what happens and the emotionality of it. At some point, intellect will have to, and perspective and time and history will have to offer up the solutions to our problems in the future. That's what happens. I think that we're in a situation where we think that it is the future that will offer up the solutions to our present, when it is indeed our perspective and our past that will offer up the solutions for our present, making way for our future. So thanks for hanging in. Thanks for listening. Thanks for not freaking out. Even if you freaked out a little bit, even if you're ready to cuss, that you haven't. Well, or maybe you have. I don't know. But hang in there. We're going to bring this thing in for a landing here in a second. So you're good. You made it. You made it. Congratulations. Listen. And whatever you know what, if you've got an opinion, do me a favor. Do me a solid. Send me an email at WLS WLS860@gmail.com. That's WLS Willie Lawson Show 860@gmail.com. And let me know what you think. Let me know of what you think about the show, what you think about if you heard us on iHeartRadio, if you heard us on Spreaker, where you heard the show. Do you like it? Do you like what it sounds like? Do I have a wonderful dulcet voice? If you want to know more about me and the show, that is the best way. You're already on the internet. It's no big deal. And if you're still paying for email because you have AOL and you're still letting them take money out of your checking account, good God, stop it. All right, listen. Racial equilibrium. The South was able to reach this equilibrium because, like I said in the last segment, it's because everybody knew their role and everybody played their role. Now, what the thing about that was that the roles were able to change. Why? Because of what we just talked about. Because of education, the roles were able to change because there was something now for black youth who were the sons and grandsons of slaves to aspire to. There was something that they could aspire to that not only did their fathers and grandfathers appreciate and encourage, it was also something that even the white racists wanted for their children. Even white people in the South wanted the very same thing for their children. They wanted them to go on to higher education, to be educated because there was a value in education. So there was commonality. So on that front, there was commonality and equilibrium. Commonality and equilibrium. People wanted the very same thing for their kids. So that's why a bunch of these historically black colleges and universities opened in the South, not in New York, not in Chicago, not out west. I'm not sure, and if you know of one, please send me an email at WLS860@gmail.com of a historically black college university that's in California or Washington State or Oregon. Can you hook me up? Can you hook a brother up with some knowledge, Because I don't think there is. I don't think there is. If there is, let me know. I'd like to know. All right. So you see the commonality and the importance of education. That created an equilibrium. And because there were black communities that were separate, and I'm not calling for segregation. Don't get crazy. I'm not calling for a return to segregation, but because of it, there was a lack of competition for jobs. There was a lack of competition for jobs. So, and because of that lack of competition for jobs, there was equilibrium. There weren't white people and black people fighting for the same jobs like there were in northern cities in the factories. So there wasn't that opportunity. There wasn't that opportunity for conflict. Equilibrium. There was no reason to institute laws and regulations to, quote, even the playing field, because there were black communities that were in a position to support the citizens who lived there. I told this story on my Blog Talk Radio show, and I'll tell it. I don't know if I've told it here, but I'll tell it here anyway. You know what? When I was in elementary school, My doctor was black, and everybody in his office was black. There were no white people in his office. I had a black doctor who had black nurses with black receptionists, and that was the person who took care of me. Dr. Brookins. There you go. Dr. Brookins took care of me, and Dr. Brookins was black. My son doesn't have that experience. He's 24 now. He doesn't have that experience. And I dare to say most black kids who live, or most black kids and kids go all the way down to 20, all the way up to 25 for me. Most black kids don't have, even in the hood, don't have that experience. They don't. If they see a doctor, they see a white or a Middle Eastern doctor. That's what they see. So what's changed? In all of this, things are better now. What's changed? In these communities that were damn near self-sufficient, a lot of them, there was enough economic opportunity right there in the community to provide a lot of people with something to do, whether it was agricultural, whether it was, the people who provided food, or the people who worked on the vehicles, or the people who had gone to school and become a doctor, become a teacher and came back to work in their community, the people who had gone off to school and become preachers, and they came back home to apply their trade there, mechanics and the like. Self-sufficient communities. So I'm not calling for a return to segregation. But we have to understand that partially because of segregation at least provided the opportunity for these communities to provide all the things that they needed. Even here in Tampa, my mom, who went to high school in the 40s and the early 50s, went to all-black high school. Went to Middleton High School here in Tampa. Now, Middleton still exists, but Middleton now is actually not far from where it was when my mother attended, and now it's a magnet school, and it's mostly white. It's not the same, not the same at all. But when you start to look at some of the alumni, the alum from Middleton, and their influence in East Tampa, where we live, those were the doctors that graduated from Middleton and went off to FAMU or Bethune, Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, or they went off to Bethune-Cookman College, or they went off to some other historically black college or university, and then they came back to Tampa to apply their trade in the black community, in the black schools, as teachers. They became administrators in the black schools. So there was they were the doctors in the black hospitals where black people went. Yes, they were separate hospitals. They were the surgeons. You went to the black-owned store. You went to the black-owned gas station because there you could use the bathroom. And I knew this show would challenge some people, but think about it. Think about it. Not that segregation was the best is the best plan. I don't believe it is. I want to make sure that you understand that I don't believe it is. But what it was able to do was provide an opportunity for self-sufficiency. And thus, because people's worlds didn't collide, it gave the opportunity for equilibrium. There was a lot less conflict. Now, in the northern states, the black people who had left the South to head north were now competing in the same arena for everything. For housing, for jobs, education, everything. Thus, there was time there was more opportunity for conflict, and in that conflict, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, and that's why we saw what we saw in the 70s during court order desegregation. During court order segregation, I was and again, the experiences that anybody knows are best their own. In 1972, as desegregation was mandated busing was starting to happen, what I saw was the little elementary school that I went to here in Tampa, that was in this all-black neighborhood. Now, when I tell you all-black neighborhood, you guys don't understand what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a place that I am not ashamed that I lived in. I am from a place called Progress Village. I hate the name, but it was called Progress Village. Now, he was a progress about it. It was a housing development neighborhood, not a high-rise, of a few hundred homes that were owned by black people. Where I lived, when we moved from New Jersey to the South in 1971, was a place where, 1971. We moved in 1967 is when we moved. Was a place that it was an all-black neighborhood full of homeowners, not renters, homeowners, people who had yards and lawnmowers and edgers and carports and driveways, front yards and backyards, homeowners, not renters. That was the South. And a neighborhood school that when I went there in third grade was an all-black school. All these little black kids there at the school, and all the teachers and administrators were black too. This is the same time I went to the all-black doctor's office, Dr. Brookins' office. So guess what my model was? My model was that black people could do all this stuff. I never got it. Now I'm 54. I never got the idea, and I never understood how now, when things are supposed to be better, that being black is such a weight because we don't see that there's any future. Now, none of us were rich. I mean, this wasn't a community of wealthy black people. This was a community of people who had they been working in a northern city would have been mostly factory workers, renting, with no front yard or backyard or lawnmowers, no barbecue grills, no vacations, no parties in the backyard on 4th of July. No carports, no driveways. That had been factory workers. But because it was in the South, and because it was a right-to-work state, and because it was the South that had obtained this equilibrium and was able to take advantage of, and people were able to take advantage of the segregationist nature of the South at the time, this is what they were able to do. Racial equilibrium happened first in the South. And I think that that's the model that we need to follow. You know what media, and the same media that I talked about earlier in the show, that continues to tell you that it's the folks in the South that don't get it. I think it's exactly the opposite. It is the Northeastern and West Coast educated media that continues to tell the great lie. My name is Willie Lawson, and thank you for coming to the Will Lawson Show here on iHeartRadio. Just like always, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and we'll see you when we see you.